OCO, my name is Shanista Cloud. I work for the Cherokee Nation Cultural Resource Center. The following video is part of our new education series geared toward assisting teachers set up their own cultural activities in the classroom. In this video, I'm going to show you the type of reed we use to weave baskets and how we process that to get it ready for a class. This type of reed comes from the rattan plant. It's a commercial reed and it's typically used to cane chairs or made into wicker chairs or wicker baskets. We use this because it's very similar to traditional materials like honeysuckle or buckbrush, but because it's sold in bulk, we can purchase large quantities of it to use in a classroom setting. The reed we use is typically size number 2 or 1.75 millimeter, and that'll be shown on the label when you purchase. This is a good size for beginners. It's large enough to be easy to handle, but it's not so large that it doesn't have flexibility. It also comes in smaller sizes, but those can typically be too small to weave a large enough basket. This reed can get dry and brittle if it's not used fairly quickly. We can typically store basket reed for 3 to 6 months before it starts to dry out. So it's a good idea to purchase only what you need for a class. When the reed is dry, it can be brittle. So when we use this basket reed, we soak it. It doesn't have to soak for very long before weaving it into a basket. 5 or 10 minutes at least is good enough. To prepare for a basket class, we'll take the reed and roll it into coils. These are typically 3 to 4 feet long, and they're rolled up into smaller pieces that make it easier for students to weave into their baskets. Those pieces will be thrown in a tub of water to soak for 5 or 10 minutes before the students use them. We'll do the same process to our dyed basket reed. This type of reed can be purchased online, and we can offer you a list of retailers at your request. Traditional dyes would have come from berries, roots, the hulls of nuts, different materials that are found in nature. For our purposes, we use fabric dyes that can be bought at your local grocery store or at craft stores. Now I'm going to show you how we dye the basket reed. We use these large canning pots because they're wide enough to hold a whole roll in the pot. We're going to start by just shaking up our fabric dye. This pot is about half full of water, and I only need about half a bottle for 1 roll of reed. I could probably get 2 rolls of reed dyed with half a bottle. 1 roll might be just a little bit lighter than the first. I'm going to bring this up to a simmer, not quite a boil. We just want the water good and hot. Try not to splash it or get it on your clothes. You can wear gloves to do this, and it's a good idea to wear clothes that you're not going to worry about getting dyed, just in case you have any spills. But I'm just going to put in about half a bottle. That feels about right. I'll stir this around, make sure we get that color all incorporated into the pot. And I'll let this heat back up a little bit before I add the basket reed. When you cut the strings off the roll of reed, you want to start with these outer strings. You want to leave this one because it's holding the end of the roll of reed here. If you were to let that go, it can come unspooled and it becomes a mess. It makes it a lot harder to get in the pot. So you'll cut these off first. And we'll leave this one for last. And this is just a piece of reed that's on here to tie off the bundle and hold it together. Oop. It's already trying to come undone on me. Take that off and take out the label. I like to hold on to it until I get this cut off of here and in the pot so that it doesn't come undone. Now I can set it gently in here so I don't splash, and then I can let it go. And I'll just use my spoon to push it down in the dye. Now this does float, so you'll let it soak for a while on one side, usually about 15 minutes or so, and then you'll flip it to make sure to get a nice even dye. So it's been about 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and flip the reed over, and I want to find where the end of that reed was, so that where I wanted to hold on to it so that it didn't come unspooled, because I'm going to use my tongs to kind of reach in here and find that spot. That way as I flip it over, I can try to keep it all in one bundle. And I'll just kind of use my spoon to help me here. I'm going to try to do this as easily as I can without splashing it everywhere. There we go, we have that one flipped over. And I'm just going to push that back down in the water and let it soak again for another 10 or 15 minutes. So now that this is set for about 10 or 15 minutes, I think it's good and done. It's soaked up enough color. I'm going to pull it out, let it drip a little bit, and I'm going to transfer this to the sink. This is still pretty hot, so you want to be careful with it, but you're going to dump it in the sink and you're going to rinse it with cold water until it rinses clear. Now I'll just hang it here, let it dry while I work on the rest. If you don't have access to a stove or large canning pots, you can always use a 5-gallon bucket, fill it about halfway with water, and add your half a bottle of liquid dye, and then let your basket reeds soak overnight in the mixture.
Wado for your time to learn about Cherokee culture and history. Share what you learned today with someone else. For more information, contact Cherokee Nation Education Services Cultural Resource Center at education@cherokee.org or 918-453-5000 and ask for education services.